Welcome back to another tutorial from the Digital Dojo in Rodriguez's classroom. Today we're going to talk a little bit about creating a walk sequence for our flour sack. Now, this is going to be aimed more towards our sketch artists, so we'll go ahead and focus just on that for this tutorial. We'll talk a little bit more about vector in another tutorial. So here we have our flour sack going for a walk. You can see he's got his foot up here, he's got his other foot back here behind him, his arms are swinging back and forth, you can see a bit of weight that is applied to him. What this essentially is telling us here is that, well, he is in what we like to call contact pose 1. There are essentially 4 poses that you need to keep up with, 4 key poses that are necessary to create a believable walk cycle in a 2-legged character. And for the sake of this tutorial, we're talking about our flour sack taking a little bit of a walk, and he's a 2-legged character. So your character's going to have what we call here contact 1, right? Contact 1, we call that contact 1 because ultimately you're going to have 4 steps, and here's the first set right here. This is set number 1, right? And down here, this is set number 2. That's because everything that we do on one side of the body, we have to do on the other side of the body. Okay? So here, contact 1, the one we're talking about right now, for contact 1, we have our little flour sack here. We've named him Bloss, and Bloss is going for that walk, and we see that his right foot, the foot closest to us as the audience, is actually, the heel is making contact with the ground. His other foot is back here behind him, right? We can't really see what's happening back there. But this is our contact 1. And right after contact 1 comes down 1. This is a down position, because in this position, this is when your character, our flour sack in this case, is at his lowest. This is also where we're applying our first squash, right? And we already know about squash. We've talked about that in class. So Bloss is in his squash, his lowest point. All of his weight is on this foot right here. And his arms are swinging upwards. You can see that they're actually starting to kind of arc upwards a little bit due to him coming down, right? And then right after that pose comes passing. We call this passing because what we can't see happening here is his foot on the other side is actually coming around where it's going to make contact further on down our animated sequence. So this is passing. We call that passing as that foot passes by on the other side. Arms are coming down a little bit further than they were in the second frame. This keyframe 3 here shows our body actually starting to kind of curve forward, actually, right? And during passing 1, we are preparing for what will be the tallest pose, which is up 1, right? So your sequence, if I'm not zooming up here, our sequence is contact, down, passing, up. And again, 2-legged creature, so this is just on 1 foot, right? 1 foot on one side. This is the side that's closest to us. And then whatever you do on one side of the body, well, you've got to do that on the other side. So we're going to even this out. So here we have contact 2. His foot on the other side is now making contact with the ground. This foot is closest to us. This foot is furthest from us. This is on the other side. And the way that we indicate that here, of course, is this bit of overlap right here. That overlap lets us know that this leg is closer to us, and this overlap here on this side tells us that this foot is actually closer to us, right? So contact 2 is the opposing foot, and his foot on our side is now rolling back. It's moving back in this direction, right? Then comes our down 2 again, This is his lowest point that he'll be in the walk sequence, right? His body is squashing down. We've got his passing his foot that's already back here, lifting up, starting to come up a little bit because he's going to start to lift that leg past. It's going to move over in this arc in that direction. And his weight is over here on that foot, right? The transfer is now complete. The weight is over here on this foot on the far side, and here comes the foot closest to us, making that arc that's going to come over into our up 2, right? Again, his tallest sequence, or his tallest pose. So you want to keep up with 4 essential terms, 4 poses, right? That is your contact 1, down 1, passing 1, and up 1. And then because he's a 2-legged creature, he's going to happen on the other side too. Contact 2, down 2, passing 2, up 2. Okay? So this is going to be roughly 8 rough frames of walking. There's a good chance if you want your animation smoother, there's a good chance you're going to be including more frames here. So you've already got your keys, right? Keyframes are happening here. These are your extremes. These are the extreme directions in which your character is going to be in their furthest pose, furthest direction in each pose, right? And then your in-betweens are going to happen right in here so that your animation happens smoother. And those are going to be your breakdowns, okay? So this is how you create a walk sequence. I'd like you to go ahead and just practice drawing these poses. I don't expect you to animate right now, but I do want to see you putting these together, right? So this is going to be 1 frame, 2, 3, 4 frames, and then all the way through until you have 8 total frames. Play it through, make sure it looks clean, and then for homework, I'd like you to go ahead and figure out what those tweens are going to look like in between here, right? What these sequences, these breakdowns are going to look like for each one of these tie-ins, these breakdowns between each of these major frames. And that is a quick rundown of your basic walk sequence.